Folks, we need to get to Florida. We got to visit Champs Home Field, the new experiential concept. 35,000 square feet. It's got a full basketball court, agility tester. There's a treadmill to test your running shoes on. So it's Champs, which is a Foot Locker brand. Apparently, this is the largest Foot Locker brand store out there.
But I'm going to be honest, we're in Florida, and if you could hold it up on your hand to tell me kind of where exactly in Florida it is, too, that would be really helpful.
If this is the state of Florida, it's down here. It's in Pembroke Pines, which is a little bit north of Miami. But enough messing around on Instagram. It's time to do a show. You guys ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right. So this week, big news on bricks and mortar stores from the likes of Champs, Apple, and more. Plus, we're going to talk about the highs and lows of urban retail recovery. All of that and more right now on Everything We Know About Retail. Hello, my name is James Cook. I'm coming to you live from Indiana. Ebere Anokute is in New York.
Hello, and I'm also live.
Taylor Coyne is in Los Angeles. And are you live, Taylor?
Also live with some construction going on in the background. So,
all right. So you're gonna just ride. You're gonna ride the mute button for the show. Is
yes.
What I'm hearing.
Yes, and I just want everyone to know and be aware that that is happening. That is what is my life today.
I mean, we've had everything on our live streams over the years, from dogs to deliveries to all kinds of stuff. So this is Everything We Know About Retail, where we tell you everything we know about retail, and we do it 3 things at a time. So Taylor, what do you know about retail?
Always so glad you asked. Here's the first thing that we know about retail. Metros are recovering, but progress is never linear. Yeah, that's been my mantra for a little while. So I'm just gonna go with it for today's retail lesson. So lots of good news, a little highs and lows. Again, that's the story of everything, right? So positive. Look at this. Keisha on our team, she's been on this show before, came up with this great visual to look at all these metros that are showing positive rent growth. This is amazing. So we're going to dive, we're starting a little macro. We're getting a little deeper. So this is obviously all retail for all metros. This includes a lot of different things, but look at this positive rent growth. The only one that's not posting growth is San Francisco. And I'll be honest, it's more of a modest decline. San Francisco's kind of had it rough, I would say, over the pandemic. And it's definitely, climbing its way back up. So this is great. This is really setting our stage that we are seeing a lot of positive rent growth. People are excited. There's demand for retail space. That is awesome. I'm
just going to jump in here real quick. Friend of the show, Elizabeth Ringbaum, says, good morning. I apologize, Elizabeth. She is based out of the San Francisco area. Okay. I'm sorry that we don't have better news for you. But, I should say she works in open air centers, and that's been a much better story anyway.
Yeah. Sure. And I've got to say, again, San Francisco, I wish I had the number in front of me, but the year over year decline was far more significant previously. This is in my mind a positive story considering some of the struggles that some of these metros have had. So I fully anticipate Q2. Maybe we're positive, that's this is progress isn't linear, Ebere and James. But so diving deeper, month over month, all of our prime urban corridors saw foot traffic increase. That was the first time this has happened in 12 months. Unfortunately, this isn't exactly shown in this particular chart. We are still below 2019 levels. So for those unfamiliar with this chart, which my goodness, this has been my monthly chart since the pandemic started.
You just update it every month.
Yeah. So I'm very
those first
familiar
few
with
months,
it.
it was pretty depressing too.
Yes, super depressing. And I think we all wish that this was much closer to 0%. But I will say we are kind of climbing our way back from a pretty rough January. But I will say 8 of our corridors, all 8 of our prime urban corridors, are within 15% of our 2019 levels. That is good. That is good. We are seeing progress. That is, that hasn't happened in a little bit while. So again, we're recovering from some significant dips, but January was rough with Omicron, also cold. A lot of our prime urban corridors are in colder climates.
Right.
So anticipate this is going to, I think when I revisit this chart, because we all know I will in a few months, I think we're going to see this a more positive trend line as we get into the spring, for our New York and our Chicagos and our Bostons and our DCs. See, look how many cold cities I just named.
And our Indianapolis, Taylor, come on.
Yes, thank you. But I will just say that we have no prime urban corridor in Indianapolis.
Right,
No
right,
offense.
Yeah, none taken. We don't really have one. So, hey Taylor, there was a big article in the Times this week about inflation and about office workers coming back to the office and encountering higher prices. Is that going to affect urban retail recovery?
So, it's funny. I never would have thought inflation has now impacted all of our lives, right? And in ways I kind of didn't anticipate. One of, to your point, James, of that article of that it's more expensive to go back to work. And I think looking at this spending chart is like a prime example of it. Look at gas, the money that we're spending at gas stations. This is year over year change. This was March advanced spending numbers from the census. Gas stations were spending 37% more. The majority of Americans drive to work. All of these costs are, I was used to working at home every single day. I'm driving far less. And now all of a sudden I have to get back into my car and do my normal commute, which according to this is 37% more expensive than it was last year. So, that's the cost of your daily routine. So, obviously clearly, according to that chart, the biggest one is travel. Your coffee, your food, it's far pricier than it was when we were all going to work 2 years ago. I thought it was really interesting. Square did an analysis of all of their, credit card swipes or boops. I don't know what you call when you boop your credit card.
Taps, right?
Taps, your taps. Yeah. Even though I'm gonna go for boops. I like boops. They said their orders placed at QSRs over the past month rose nearly 13%, and they've also been tracking like their so not only are we paying more or we're shopping more at those places, but the average price of some of their products. So they do like lunch wraps; those are up 18%.
Really? So quick service sales are up, but we think that's due to inflation, rising prices, not like more people are going out to eat. Okay.
I think it's a combo. I think it's supposed to be like, yes, more people are out there and we're paying more, which makes all of those stories, confusing. But, so I'm going to bring my last chart of the day. This is Castle's back to work barometer, which for anyone who's unfamiliar has been great. They are, I think, like the leading tech company right behind badge swipes when you go into the office.
Yeah, they're like an office building security company.
Yep. So they're a perfect person
they
to
just have a
report.
lot of data on volume of people coming in and out of these buildings.
Right. So, which has been super helpful to understand. A company can say one thing, but it's also hard with like, a couple days back at work. But it hit 42.8% last week, which is a slight decrease from the previous week, even though Castle reports that it's probably, spring break. All states and whatever, everyone is on a different spring break, but it's basically been from a few weeks ago and will continue for a couple of more weeks. So they say that a lot of that is to the variation of that. But, Google brought back their employees part-time on April 4th. Apple began requiring workers to come back to the office on April 11th. So, all of this is starting. But James, to ultimately answer your question, people are also going back to work less. So it
Yeah.
probably evens out, right? Like very few people I think are going back 5 days a week.
Yeah.
See, grilled cheese sandwiches. So you're spending
Too damn high.
$6.75 for a grilled cheese at Starbucks, but you're maybe only spending it 3 days a week versus previously you were spending it 5 days a week.
Yeah, my working thesis is for the office employee, it's a net benefit because, right, you're spending, all right, I can't do percentages in my head, but you're spending 20% more at the salad place, but you're only going to the salad place 3 days a week or 2 days a week, as opposed to what used to be 4 or 5 days a week. At the end, it's more in your benefit. I think the question really isn't about the worker. It's about what's the new normal going to be for density of office workers.
Right. So exactly. I think it's never going to be back to normal, which does impact some of our urban corridors, right? Like I just don't think, but at the same time, I think some companies, right? They'll want you back in the office on Mondays. Some companies will want you back on Tuesdays. So I think maybe we're never at that like 100% density, but I think it ends up evening out throughout the day, throughout your, what you choose and how you choose to commute. I think, especially kind of with, I don't know, I got to stop saying things are getting back to normal. But again, as we get into these summer months, I'll be curious. I think all of these numbers are going to go up. I don't think, again, I'm putting my hand in I don't think it's ever back to 100%, whatever it was in 2019. But I think we get closer and far more. And maybe it's more about fluctuations too, rather than kind of like the steady occupancy. Maybe it's, highs and lows sort of, but even, I don't know. Again, my point is kind of like it all evens out at the end, even though day to day or even week to week, it may not be constant.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that it does eventually get back to some new normal, which is going to be a lot closer to that 100%. It's not like it's going to happen this summer. It's going to take some time also for office spaces to reconfigure. Like I have this
100%.
idea that like, okay, so now you got a bunch of office occupiers that have people in 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Well, that means you could probably fit more occupiers in one building. So eventually you'll get back to a point of that closer to that 100%, but it's going to take because office leases are like 10 years long. So it's going to take like 10 years for this reconfiguration to happen, which I know is not what we want to hear. I mean, Eric Adams wants everybody to be back in Midtown this summer, people, come on.
I've got an interesting anecdote that I heard about for anyone in the LA or who've been to downtown LA, that area. So the Row, big project, big redevelopment project, kind of in the middle of the arts district, still very much,
retail and office.
Retail and
more office though, right?
More office,
Yeah.
which apparently I will say I do not know any of the occupancy rates. I do not know any of that, but this is just like an anecdotal commentary, is that apparently the Row is doing great because the Row is very much like a campus. There's a ton of outdoor space. There is retail. They've done a really great job with it. And apparently there's a big demand from that for office workers because that's what the workers want. Like when they want to come into work, they want to make sure they're a little bit more spread out, that there's access to outdoor space. And again, coming from a biased place, we're in LA, it's always nice out. You can go outside and it's awesome at all times of the year. But I just thought that was really interesting that apparently like the demand for that office space, which I'm, again, a little surprised by, but it's great news. I think that that's great and like a sign of what's going to happen. Great. Have I said great enough? I think it's great.
No.
I think everything's great.
One more time.
So Patrick makes the point that all three of us are working from home.
Also accurate. Patrick, it's about
untrue.
flexibility.
Absolutely.
It's true. Now, Ebere often joins us from the Manhattan office.
Yeah.
Taylor is in LA. You'll be going back to the office more.
Yep.
I work from home and when I'm traveling or in different offices, depending on where I'm at. But none of us has a traditional 5 day a week. I mean, at some point we have in the past, right? But even before COVID, like Taylor, how often were you in the LA office before COVID?
3 or 4 days a week.
Okay. And afterwards, when things get back to normal, what do you think it'll be? What, like 2 or 3 days a week?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3
Yeah.
will be, and again, there's always like
Right.
I enjoyed that flexibility before. I feel like that was, that was a real perk of our role and our job, but and I think it just it gets a little amplified.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, it's all about the flexibility. Some people want to, flexibility. It's like that's my theme. That's my theme song. Along with that chart, just flexibility. We want options.
All right. I was also going to mention. I don't want to interrupt you, Taylor.
No,
but
you better go ahead.
Thought it was interesting. On can you pull up the castle chart again? The back to work.
Can.
Yeah. So for this, I always think it's interesting, especially because we talked about how San Francisco is the only major metro that didn't show rent growth, right? And we see here that it's among one of the lowest when it comes to office occupancy in the city, right? So I just think that correlation between like getting people back in the offices and how it supports the retail in those areas, seeing that reflected in some of these different data points is always like, fascinating and also affirming, right? Because I think that's what you would assume, but then to see the data reflect that too is like really nice from a research standpoint. I'm like, it makes me happy to see that. I think like San Jose might be smaller than them, but for the most part, I feel like, and watching this metric over the course of the past however many, like a year and a half or so, I feel like San Francisco, no disrespect to our good friend Elizabeth, was always among the lower when it came to office occupancies of this 10-city average. So just an interesting point I wanted to point out to our viewers because that correlation there, I think, is something that we talk about all the time to our clients and to when we're talking about the future of retail in these areas, right? It's like people got to get back first before the retail can really sort of recover. And obviously we see that people are getting back slowly but surely and the retail is following suit. So very encouraging stats, Taylor.
I was watching the movie Bullet the other week, and it has this famous car chase through San Francisco. And I was like, yeah, I got to get back there. Tourists, when international tourists start coming back, they're going to be going to San Francisco. I think that's actually going to lead that city's recovery. Anywho, that's another story. Where are we at? What are we talking about?
Yeah, great. So, urban recovery, highs and lows. James, what else do you know about retail?
All right. Here's the second thing we know about retail. Chains continue to open big, impressive physical stores. Despite the oftentimes popular narrative that everything's shifting online. In fact, brands continue to find that not just flagship stores, but just substantial, cool physical manifestations of their brand are what they want to do. Leader of the pack continues to be Apple. Just a couple of weeks ago, they opened up a new flagship in South Korea in Myeongdong. This is a district in South Korea known for, in Seoul, known for international fashion brands. It's kind of like one of the biggest shopping and tourist districts in Seoul. It kind of seems like Apple really likes to put its stores in sort of these splashy, high profile tourist destinations. Right now, South Korea is a lot more locked down. North Korea is really locked down too, but no, South Korea is a lot more locked down than we are in the States. They've still opened up, but everything's going on with social distancing. Great looking store. They're doing one of the things that Apple really does is like a manifest of brand experiences. They do a lot of these today in Apple sessions where they're doing, how to take photos on your phone, how to use like design software on your Macintosh computer, stuff like that. So of course I had to jump on the store's page and see what kind of sessions they were offering. And the one that I think we need to fly out and enroll in is it's going to be learn how to do your own remix of the K-pop band 17. You guys know 17, their new single Darling. So remixing their new single in GarageBand. You guys K-pop fans at all?
I can't say that I am.
Okay.
No, but
okay.
Can we back up and talk about? I love that you said Macintosh computers.
Yeah,
that really took me back.
That was for my old heads out there. Yeah. You know what my first computer was? It was an Apple II Plus. So yeah, probably never used one of those, have you? Anyway,
I mean, I don't know. My dad had like one of the original Macs where I went on and played Oregon Trail. So
this was
I don't
before
know.
that.
Oh, then
So
no, sorry.
so of course, because I'm a researcher and I love rabbit holes, I was like, all right, I got to check out 17. And so I did watch the video for their new hit Darling. 17's really everything you'd want in a K-pop band. I mean, it kind of seems like a Neverland sort of thing where it's a Peter Pan experience where everybody is like 17 forever. Maybe that's like the theme of the band or something, but not really the target demo for that one. But it looks like they're having a good time, and I think that video had like 6 million views, and it like dropped last week or something. So
I can
we could
appreciate
learn.
the pastel suits.
Yeah, we could learn something from them.
Absolutely.
So anywho,
I
we're going way off track here.
Yeah, I'm in good company with LinkedIn user.
So Apple continues to open flagship stores right through COVID-19. Apple's been opening these highly impactful flagship stores, and they've also been doing remodeling. So we talked about the one that just opened in Seoul. This is the one in the Grove in LA, Taylor, that just doubled its size. Have you been to the new restored Grove location?
No, I haven't been to the Grove in a while, but this seems cool. I would
It's
check this
amazing.
out.
Yeah, the interior has a mirrored ceiling, and I love reading press releases because they throw in all these details. It has 16 ficus trees, Taylor, not 17, not 15, 16 ficus trees.
It better.
Well, with the mirrors, you have to keep it at that. It had to be an even number. Of course, it wouldn't be 17.
Right. And we've talked about the splashy new downtown Los Angeles location that's in a former theater. The newest ones are both in Abu Dhabi. So this one is in the Yas Mall, and this was an expansion. So they doubled the size of this one. This one just opened in February, and then in what's that?
I said yes.
Yes, Yas Queen Mall.
Yes, exactly.
And then Al Maraya Island. This is a new store. Again, splashy. In order to enter this one, guests walk through a mirrored tunnel. So really cool.
Absolutely. I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like Apple kind of is always the leader when it comes to the most like innovative and interesting physical locations, right? Just thinking about a couple of the ones that they have in New York, like the Grand Central one. I feel like you could stumble in there and not realize you're in an Apple store because it's like they really just like repurposed some part of the second floor, and it's like overlooking the main terminal, and you can see the amazing roof and stuff. Like it's just so creative. And then the one up at the top of Fifth Avenue, near the park, right? When you have to go down, and there's like, I mean, it's like a big cube on the street, and then you go in, go down, and then it's like maybe 2 floors underground of typical Apple store stuff. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they would be full steam ahead. First of all, I don't know about you guys, I just got a new iPhone maybe 2 months ago, so I'm sure the sales are solid to support opening all these new stores. But they're always at the cutting edge of really interesting retail locations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we could just do a whole show talking about Apple flagship. I think about
Maybe we should.
Chicago, the Michigan Avenue, Chicago location right there on the river, this glass opening up on, oh, so nice. Anyway, yeah, we'll do a special.
I was
Just talk
actually
about fan out on Apple.
We're hiring someone new to our team, and I thought actually one of like the first day or two of onboarding that we'd walk to the Apple store in the Tower Theater in downtown LA, and I was like, oh, this is a great, like, this is what retail is all about. So I don't know, maybe we should have our Apple store, and then I'll send him to the Grove, or I'll go and we'll take videos of that one too.
Absolutely. Yeah, love it. Trip visits.
Yep.
All right. Well, what is the farthest thing away from an urbane Apple flagship? Well, it's I-75 between Knoxville and Lexington in Kentucky, where
definitely
where the first Buckys opened in Kentucky just on Tuesday. So quick check. No shame if you don't. Are you guys familiar with Buckys? That's BUC-EE''s.
Can't say I am.
No.
All right.
Apologies,
Well,
Bucky's.
it means you probably don't live in Texas then. Bucky's is known. Well, first of all, I think it's in the Guinness book for the largest convenience store in the world.
Wow.
Their new Braunfels, Texas location is 66,000 square feet. But it's just this, it's like a roadside gas chain and it's not for trucks, I don't think. It's for passengers, but it's just huge, way bigger. Like they got clothing and souvenir shops, home goods, all this convenience store stuff. They've got a bakery, brisket. This photo doesn't do it justice. It's way big. And they have a whole like jerky area, like there's a meat section at the grocery store. Envision that but just with jerky, and then you're like, give me a pound of that and give me a half a pound of that. It's a whole thing.
Specific.
Very.
Yeah. But
I imagine
anyway,
you've been to one, James. You've been to a Bucky's before in Texas?
So I have not.
Okay.
I've just watched a lot of videos. But I have had a beaver nugget before. So Bucky's has their own private items that you can only get there. And perhaps the most famous is beaver nugget. A friend of mine who lives in Texas, when we went to a conference, brought a bag along so I could try them. It is like a cheesy poof, but with a sweet, I guess, caramel coating. So like cheese on the inside, kind of. So yeah, like a sweet cheesy poof.
I definitely thought when I first heard about beaver nuggets that it was beaver meat. I thought that we were capturing beavers and turning them into nuggets.
I mean, coming off of the beef jerky in meat cases, I feel like that's not a huge leap. So
yeah. So there are 43 Bucky's. They're huge. So it's a big deal when one opens. Most of them are in Texas, but they're expanding to, like I mentioned, they opened one in Kentucky. Private company, so we don't have a lot of details on them. But I mean, it's definitely a retail thing, no doubt about it.
I get super excited if next road trip that brings me to Texas or apparently now Kentucky, I would totally stop by and get a jerky sampling.
Yeah, now we were talking about potentially doing a meeting in Texas in the fall. So maybe that includes like we'd have to rent a car or something, but do like a road trip out to a Bucky's.
Maybe. I'm down.
And so at the top of the show, we talked about the new Champs location. Really cool. It's kind of in the same universe as Dick's House of Sports, and also that new Wilson store that we talked about. Although I have to say, thinking about Dick's, it seemed even more extravagant. Like Dick's has like an outdoor track and field set up and like a climbing wall and a batting cage. But again,
it almost seems like it was the House of, House of Sports?
Yeah.
I feel like I know they're going to be opening up more. I feel like this could be one version of that they open, right? Because there's still a ton of stuff that, that makes it interactive.
You mean the Champs or the Dick?
Yeah. Sorry, the Champs.
Yeah. Right. And Dick's has 2 locations now. I think when we talked about them before, they just had one. There's one in Tennessee and one in upstate New York. The Champs concept, I mean, it's a full basketball court, so maybe you do a half court in some of them, but I mean, that's how you get your brand out there, is you offer something unique.
Definitely. And that seems to be a theme now with like these athleisure retailers, is some sort of physical aspect to the store, right? Or some like physical activity aspect. I know if you go into like the Adidas on Fifth Avenue, they have like a little, I don't even know what to call it, like a mini football field. So you can like try on the cleats and see how they really feel on the field and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a really interesting advent that I feel like we've seen in a lot of those sort of stores recently.
Yeah, I think it's super smart because everyone's like, okay, we need to do more D2C, less department store, less, in those other, they're trying to sell their own stuff their own way. What better way than like, yeah, come here. We have a football field. See how these cleats feel on this turf and or
Exactly.
grass or whatever field you're running around on.
Or the what store was it that had a big hamster wheel that you would walk in?
That was the one.
That was in
Allbirds.
Allbirds
It's an
in
Allbirds one.
Soho.
It was a New York location. It must have been the Soho one, but if it wasn't Soho, it was an Allbirds in New York.
Yeah, which I don't think is open anymore. Anywhere, anyway. So Ebere, what do you know about retail?
Well, since we're talking about New York, here is the third thing we know about retail, which is that luxury and essential retailers are driving leasing in New York City. Quick, immediate tangent. We talked about Allbirds. They just signed a lease for a new store in Union Square, so they are obviously doing well and expanding in the city. But Taylor,
great location spot. Are you kidding? With all the NYU kids are going to have Allbirds. I mean, I feel like everyone has Allbirds, but anyway.
Absolutely. That's the next wave for NYU kids. I mean, we heard from Taylor about how, urban centers are slowly recovering. We're seeing some rent growth over there. And then we heard from James about some new stores that are opening. So I think we can use New York City as sort of a case study for where we're seeing both of those trends converge, right? We know that New York is sort of a bellwether for, other major markets in the country. So things that we see happen in New York are likely to, happen later on in other cities and other major urban centers. So, things are definitely improving from a retail leasing standpoint, right? It looks like the return of office workers to some of these, different districts in the city is causing foot traffic to increase. And then in turn, that is causing landlords and tenants alike to feel, I don't know, real antsy and jazzed about getting deals done. So when we look at this graph right here, which shows the way that deal volume has changed quarter by quarter over the past few years, we see that deal volume in Q1 of this year was up almost 8% from Q4 of 2021, right? So that's definitely encouraging. It's still down around 40% from pre-COVID levels. We see over here that we were averaging around anywhere from 100 to 130, 40 deals per quarter. And then obviously during COVID, that was down around 80%. And we were seeing single digit deals, right? I think when I ended some of these quarters, when I was doing the market reports in the middle of COVID, we had maybe 8 or 9, right? And the 10 to 12 that you see here now are deals that we got in after the fact, right? But when I was actually doing the report, we're talking single digit deals. So things were obviously understandably pretty bleak, but we've been trending in the right direction ever since. And this total that we have now of 72 deals in Q1 of this year is the highest total that we've seen since the onset of the pandemic in Q1 of 2020.
So that's 72 leases in Manhattan?
Yes, in Manhattan.
Okay.
That's
for retail. Got it.
For retail leases. Yeah, just in Manhattan alone, right? So obviously we're still down a little bit, but we're happy to see that we're increasing every quarter, right? It's going up every single quarter as we get more comfortable. People get more comfortable traveling within the United States. And so the domestic tourist population is picking up a little bit. We're still waiting for international tourism, like James mentioned earlier, but domestic tourism is picking up. And obviously, people are going back to the offices more, right? So we're seeing a lot of people, patronizing these businesses, and as a result, the landlords are, seeing some opportunity and are banking on the eventual full-time return of office workers. So essential retailers, we know, accounted for over half of all new leases, around 53%. That's a trend that existed before the pandemic and has continued ever since. We saw a little bit of fluctuation, as you can see, during the pandemic, just because, again, we're talking 8, 9 deals. So the percentages are going to be a little bit off in that way, but we're excited to see that. I think that the two major takeaways from what we've seen in Q1 and what we should be expecting to see in other major markets going forward are, number one, luxury retailers are very active, right? I feel like I talk about luxury retailers all the time, or whenever I get a chance. I won't shut up about them, right? But it's because they have been so, active, especially in New York, but honestly across the world. James, when you brought up that Apple store in Seoul, I was like, huh, because I had seen a couple stories of luxury stores opening in Italy and Seoul, but I was like, this is a US show. So I told myself that I was like, I don't need to, I need to focus on a US market, US trends. But again, we're a global globe, in case you didn't hear. We have a global economy, and so the things that are happening elsewhere are definitely impacting. And for New York City, we see here since Q1 of just last year, all these luxury retailers that have signed in the city, right? I'm not gonna, you can read them for yourselves, but these are the big names, right? Gucci, Versace, Chanel, Cartier, Bottega Veneta. So these are not, these are the big players, and it's really encouraging to see that in Q1 alone, we saw new leases from Breitling, Gucci, Versace, and Swarovski, right? They've been doing well throughout the pandemic, these luxury retailers, and so we expect them to continue to grow in the months to come and to continue to sign and open more stores. And then I think the second takeaway, which ties again directly to what Taylor was talking about, is that we've seen more activity in the Plaza District in the Q1 than we've seen in the past 2 years, right? So for those who aren't familiar with New York City and some of our prime retail corridors, the Plaza District is the area of the city that encompasses Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, and depending on who you ask, 57th Street, which is sort of the connection between those two streets, right? So 5th to 57th to Madison Avenue is what they call the Plaza District, and it's known that way because typically those are the highest, most expensive retail locations in the city, and it's where all the major brands, whether it's usually luxury, tenant mix has shifted a little bit in the past couple of years, but primarily historically, luxury retailers love to go there, and it has been, for lack of a better word, dead for the past 2 years. I'm looking at this stuff every single month, and for a long time, the only deal that I saw take place was a renewal for Gucci at Trump Tower, and other than that, it was pretty quiet. Rents weren't really moving anywhere because I think all the landlords there were trying to wait and see what the tenants were going to do, what other landlords were doing. They didn't want to be the first one to drop rents really low and then, miss out on some money that they could have made. But I think because of what we're seeing with office workers coming back slowly but surely, 43% or 42.8% was the last average that we saw. I think that has been causing foot traffic to increase, right? In addition to domestic tourism. And so this area of Midtown, right? Because we've seen some of the more neighborhoody parts of the city fare better than the office heavy districts throughout the pandemic, because obviously, people were working from home and they were patronizing the businesses that are around where they live. But now that people are going back into their office, 2, 3, 4 days a week, we're seeing a lot more. They're able to patronize those businesses in Midtown and in those other office heavy areas of the city, which I think is an amazing sign for all urban centers around the country going forward, right? We talk all the time about retail being sort of a lagging indicator when it comes to, the prosperity of a market. And so once the people come back, then we'll see the retail come back. And we see that reflected, right? The people are starting to come back slowly but surely, and the people or the retail is following. So I think we're going to see a lot more deals happening from luxury retailers in New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, Vegas. I really think it's going to be, exploding this year. So we're excited to, keep tracking it, and we're encouraged by what we've seen so far.
Excellent. Well, let's just keep this New York centric conversation going. It's time for our item for discussion, which this week is just it's a little bit of a planning sesh. So so I'm going to be in New York next week for meetings, and Ebere and I are going to take Tuesday afternoon to do some retail touring, and we're going to take some videos and report back on what we've learned. So Taylor, maybe where would you like to see us go? What do you think we should be reporting on?
Well, I am, because I'm in the know a little bit. I know that you're going to American Dream, and I am very excited to get the feedback from there, because viewers, I'm from New Jersey. I have seen that project
your entire life,
middle school going up. So I am very jealous that I will not be there. I want all of the details, all of the opinions, good, bad, all of them.
That's the American Dream Mall in what's the town that it's in?
East
in New Jersey?
Rutherford.
Yes,
There you
East
go.
Rutherford, New Jersey.
Told you I'm from New Jersey.
Absolutely.
What's like 2 or 3 million square feet? The project. It's got a
At least
indoor ski slope,
theme park, ice
all
rink,
of the things.
and a bunch of flagship retail, a new luxury wing. Yeah, we'll be filming and learning, and I believe Ebere and I are going along for an ICSC. That's the International Council of. Oh no, wait, it
No, it's
doesn't
not.
stand for that.
No,
It
it's
was.
not.
It used to be.
Incorrect.
Anyway,
know
we're
that.
going to be going along on our industry trade group is doing a tour of American Dream. So we're going to jump in on that. And I think that's going to be led by 555 that owns and manages the property.
Super jealous. It's going to be great.
So that'll be awesome. Then we're going to do self-guided tour the following day. I have already, okay, I'm making my list here. The Harry Potter store. I have made
That was going to be my next
reservations.
suggestion. Oh, you made reservations?
I've made
Yay!
reservations for the virtual reality experience, which is called like, there's 2 of them. I just chose one called like Flight to Hogwarts or something like
Absolutely.
that. So this store I'm just so excited about because this is like retail theater. Several stories designed to make you feel like you're shopping in the movie. There's different sections for different, themes and stuff, but it really feels, butterbeer bar. I mean,
Right.
I'm not even that big of a Harry Potter fan, but I'm super jazzed about this. And we've got our friend Marielle Ibrahimi, who, do you know Disrupt CRE?
Mhm.
They do conferences and stuff. She's going to meet up with us there to check out that store as well. But so we'll be reporting back on the magic of Harry Potter. What else do we need to visit?
I mean, I think we got to hit something luxury at some point so that I can
Okay.
shut up about it, right? So maybe I'll finally stop saying luxury every week. I know you mentioned Dover Street Market. I think that would be a great place for us to go and just, see what's going on down there, see what the different luxury offerings that they have over there. I don't know if there's any recently opened luxury store. I mean, I have obviously all those leases, but I don't know if the physical stores have opened yet. But if one of those has, and it's, on the way for us and the vast tour that we're taking, I definitely think we should stop there and see what they're doing in there and what they're offering. See if they offer us some champagne or what they're going to do, because I know they're all about the experience in those places.
Well, I don't think I've been to Soho. Well, I haven't been to Manhattan at all since 2019, but like specifically thinking in my head, this is my first post-COVID New York trip. Like there's a lot that's happened in Soho since then, right? That's where the most activity has been.
Definitely. I mean, from like a broader retail perspective, they definitely account for the largest percentage of new leases. But a lot of time, there's a lot of restaurants that's included in that, a lot of, other types of retail of apparel. So like athleisure companies, the more like discount stuff like that. But definitely a lot has changed since 2019. So I know we have some time planned in Soho anyway. So we'll definitely get to walk. I think up and down Broadway would be really interesting for us to walk up and down, because there's a lot of vacancy, unfortunately. So it will be interesting to see, what sort of new stores to come in there. I know Wilson recently signed a new lease there, so that could be a cool
Right.
store.
Is that open? That's not open yet, though, is it?
No, I think when I talked about it last, no, I think it opened. I think it just opened. You absolutely should go there.
Because when we talked, the Chicago Wilson had opened.
But I
right?
think the New York one had also just opened or was opening. I feel like by the time of the end of April, I hope I'm not misspeaking, but that would be a great one to go and see how that.
I think it's open. I think looks like
so that's basketball and what else did they make? Volleyballs and
what do they make? Yeah, volleyball, tennis balls,
right?
Yeah. I think of obviously Castaway, and then I actually go straight to tennis.
So we'll go to the Wilson ball store. So let's think about this for a second. So we've got obviously we're talking about talked about the Plaza District, so we'll at least walk along Fifth Avenue.
It's near our office, so easy to hit.
Our office is on Madison Avenue. Hudson Yards is the other thing.
Absolutely.
So
have you been there, James? Like since it's been completed? Okay.
Oh yeah, I've been there a few times, but I have not been there since COVID.
Okay.
So There's the Little Spain food hall from Jose Andres. That's really cool.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think if there's any new retail. Oh, I guess the new thing is, what was that, a Neiman's that closed?
Yeah, but there's no Neiman's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it, it's like it's co-working now, or that was a rumor and it's still just vacant?
I think they were marketing in his office. I don't know what they ended up doing with it though.
Yeah.
So maybe it's co-working now.
Is there anything
find
new
out.
at Hudson Yards of note?
I haven't heard of anything new there recently. I feel like the biggest story was Neiman's closing. But yeah, definitely look into that too.
I have one that I want to see, the Camp store. There's several in Manhattan, but I know there's one at Hudson Yards. And that's like an experiential kids store.
It's
that I
more,
want to check out.
is it? So that's actually, is it really a store, or is it like I drop my kids off for a couple hours and they play?
It's a kids. So you walk
both.
in and it's a kids store, and then there's like a shelf, and all of them have a variation on this, like a shelf that actually, if you push on the shelf, it opens up to a back area where they have themed, I guess, ticketed experiences for kids. My understanding is you don't leave the kid there, that you are along with them for the experience.
Got it.
I don't know if we'd be able to go in the back, but I'd certainly want to walk around the store and at least say, hey, we heard about this. We're from out of town. Can we look in the back? And they'll say, no, you weirdos, get out here.
Yeah. I saw the camp at the Hudson Yards, but I didn't get a chance to go in. But they just signed at Westfield Century City. So I want to check that out once I don't think they've opened. I think they just signed the lease and like it was just announced, but
That's
great
got to
location
be their first
for it.
West Coast location, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Other final thoughts for new retail in New York to visit?
I feel like your list is quite long.
Well,
this is going to be 800 hours of video. I'm very excited to talk about it when you guys get back.
Exactly.
Well, there's been some changes to Times Square that I was thinking about. I mean, the thing with Times Square is it's not like you're going to see retail you can't see other places. It's like you'll see the Times Square implementation of that retail. So like the Times Square Target that's part of the, what's it called, Ebere? Is it Ewalk?
Ewalk, yeah.
Not like in Star Wars, but EWALK.
Ewalk, absolutely.
Right. Which is a whole big redevelopment that our friend, isn't Patrick Smith working on that? I believe he is.
I'm pretty sure Patrick and Aaron and that team, they handle the leasing for Ewalk.
And so that's got the new Target, which if I have time, I would want to check that out.
As well as Five Below. There's a Five Below that they put in there too.
Oh, wow. So yeah. And then, I mean, if we really want to go full tourist, there's a Margaritaville.
Oh God.
Best
of luck to you, Ebere.
I'm ready.
I believe that every hour, like I think I read somewhere that like there's a bar, restaurant, and it's also a hotel. For those not in the know, it's a Jimmy Buffett themed restaurant. Again, if you don't know who Jimmy Buffett is, boomer, ex-hippie, like I'm trying to think of like
I'm thinking Warren Buffett. I was like, isn't he a billionaire?
Oh no.
Very different personality.
Yeah. Ebere, you don't have any touchstones for Jimmy Buffett. It was playing in the background, my parents listening to it growing up, so I'm very familiar. But anywho, I think if you sit in the bar or restaurant, there's like every hour there's like a music show of some sort. So I don't know. Probably won't make it there.
Entertainment.
Boomertainment.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, y'all have been enjoying another episode of Everything We Know About Retail. I would love to recommend that you check out our podcast. It's called Where We Buy, and it's quite different from this. We go in depth on one topic. New episode coming out tomorrow is all about the Miami restaurant scene. Specifically, we're going to do a profile of one restaurateur, Georgie Ramos, who has the first rooftop bar and restaurant in Coral Gables, Florida. He has another like Cuban Havana themed bar and restaurant in the Miami area. Very cool. He competed in the Swine and Wine South Beach Food and Wine Festival competition, and we followed him along on that. It's a great podcast. It's called Where We Buy. That episode's coming out tomorrow. We're on whatever podcast app you like to use. Just look for Where We Buy, or go on the web at wherewebuy.show.
Absolutely. And if you're enjoying the show that you're watching right now, go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, right? It's free and it would be very nice and it makes us feel good. So do that. And also click on the bell icon so that you know when there's a new show every week. You don't have to guess. They'll let you know. Also free. Go ahead and do it, please.
You can also follow the JLL retail page on LinkedIn. We will be back next week talking about all of the fun New York things that James and Ebere are doing without me. That will be out next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You, of course, can find that on everythingweknow.show or on the JLL retail LinkedIn page.
Absolutely. So, Taylor, while I have you here, when we're talking about office recovery, how much has that recovered in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Oh, I am so glad you asked. I know so much about Albuquerque. I will tell you all of that next week.